Hey everyone, it's Terry with Terry's Tidbits. In today's video for the Sales Cloud Consultant exam, we are talking about lead management. So we cover things like campaigns, lead scoring, and data quality. So take a look at this video. So we are on week 6, and are talking lead management today. So Julie, Jose, and Lori have topics for today. I don't see Jose yet, so we will go ahead and get started with Julie and work from there.
Okay, there. Okay. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes.
Okay, good. Okay. So mine, I was talking to Terry earlier today. When I got mine is explain how campaign capabilities support the sales process. And to me, it was kind of a loaded question, but I also thought it'd be a little more straightforward. And I went out, I kind of cheated a little bit, I'll be honest. I went out I'm going to blame it on the game, the Iowa game, but I went out to focus on force and signed up. Actually, I did do that for like study exams and their course as well. And then I stole a lot. So, but hopefully, if nothing else,
you borrowed a lot.
I borrowed.
Yes.
Yeah, I can't steal. I borrowed. So hopefully, if nothing else, this deck will give you some highlights. I'm not going to go through all of it. I think I've got 12 or 13 slides of kind of stuff talking about campaigns and leads. What was a little misleading to me was the section for the test is called lead management, and it's 7% of the score. However, when you get into the topics, it's campaign, which is in my title of what I need to explain to you guys. And then another section on focus on force was all about lead management. So to me, that was a little confusing. So I ended up just gathering information for everybody instead of condensing it, where you guys that came before me just did a phenomenal job, but I don't feel like I streamlined things very well. Anyway, so what I've got in here is some information about the campaign management overview. And I think one thing and you guys all get this, you've been in this world for a long time, and I should have a slide on it. My big thing when I used to do training for end users was terminology is huge. And terminology, I used to always say words matter. And Terry and I were just on site with a client on Friday where the topic of campaign came up and what did it mean to them. So I just think terminology is huge, and I won't go through all of it today, but just so that you know the difference between campaign, leads is one that gets misunderstood, and then even just the other objects, account, contact, opportunity, and how all of that kind of works together. But as far as campaigns, to me, a campaign is really an area where you keep track, a marketing department can set it up and keep track of a marketing activity. It could be a conference. It could be an email blast. It's really just kind of the folder where you're keeping track of what the campaign is, description of that, maybe what your target is. You can keep track of, revenue you hope to get, et cetera. And then you add people to it. And that's where it gets tricky because you can do contacts or leads and you can add those into the campaign. And then that's what you're going to track is more or less, did something go out to Julie? Did Julie respond? But it's not all automatic. And I think a lot of people think sometimes, oh my God, I just push a button and the system sends out this glorified, really nice email and it keeps track of everything. It really, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but it really doesn't. It's more of a manual process. And I think what you'll need to know is kind of how you can automate some of that, which might be through like a data import or things like that. So to me, it's really kind of a file folder of where you keep track of what activity you're doing, who you're targeting, and then who responds. So that's kind of my overview of a campaign. If anyone has any corrections, please jump in. The one thing I know that I've messed up on before, and I did this slide on purpose, but it's really important that you have the marketing user permission for the users to be able to do marketing things. So, and I don't do a lot behind the scenes anymore, like you guys do, but I do know that used to mess me up, kind of back in the day. And then also execution. I think what's important to remember there is that you're going to want another tool to do like mass emails and get stuff out. This is more of a tracking mechanism. The campaign is. You can send list emails out to members of a campaign, but that's kind of about it, right, Terry? I mean, is there anything else you would mention there, or is that?
Yeah, I mean, if you are a marketing person and you're used to the concept of lists, campaigns in Salesforce is really just a list. It is not. I mean, you still have to understand Salesforce's terminology, like Julie mentioned, but in most marketers' minds, when you're talking about campaigns, it throws them off because campaigns is a much broader topic than what Salesforce campaigns actually do. And in Salesforce, a campaign is technically just a list. It's a segmentation of people.
And part of this, I think my last slide, or close to my last slide, is there's other marketing. They'll emphasize like Marketing Cloud because it's one of their products and that type of thing. And you guys, I have a lot of slides here, so I don't know what's next. I'm just going to kind of click. So this, don't worry, this is a lot of words, but it was just stuff that I thought came to mind, like things you just want to keep top of mind and things to explore further. And I'm sure there's more to add to that. But just kind of some quick hits and things that I found when I was working on the focus on force area. I'm not going to read through them, Terry, if that's okay. This is more of a deck for you guys to kind of have, and hopefully it'll help you. But like at the bottom, those were two things, campaign responses can be updated these 4 ways, additional ways to add members these 4 ways. So you'll kind of need to go in and work on those and the knowledge. This I got to be honest with you, campaign influence overview. They've done a lot more since I've been in here. Goodness. I do think we'll probably need to know some of that, but gosh, Terry, I don't know how to kind of explain all that, but.
Campaign influence, you have some roles that you can set up and around this, but it basically is a way of getting people associated or getting a campaign some credit for influencing a sell. So on your opportunity, you'd have a related list called campaign influence, and it automatically will associate a certain set of campaigns to that opportunity. What you find frequently is that salespeople won't type in or won't key in what the primary campaign was or what was the reason that brought this customer to us. Salespeople are notorious about putting that sort of data in. No offense to those that sell, but they won't do it. And so campaign influence is kind of a nice automated way of associating campaigns, whether it's directly connected is arguable. You can kind of argue the fact is that, well, it's really more like it's brand awareness, that perhaps there's some credit that you can give to a campaign for sourcing a given opportunity. Take it for what it's worth. I always tell people it's a great option, but it's not 100%. I mean, if you're trying to measure the ROI of your campaign influence is a little bit of a stretch, but as long as you understand how it's driving its numbers, it's still a good metric.
Yeah. And I also part of what I researched too was that campaign is overall is one of the most underutilized parts of Salesforce, and encouraging people to start using it. The other thing too, not to confuse you, but I know at our company, we also have a lead source field, like on the opportunity, like where did it come from? So I've got to fill out 2 spots. One would be that, and the other would be if it was associated to a campaign. So that can get a little confusing too, and how you want to gather your metrics. I'm going to kind of keep going. So what I did again is I just tried to capture some stuff that might be on the exam and things to kind of go research further. There was a lot. Like I was shocked that there was this much about this one part of the 7%. So I do have different things here as far as kind of lead. It really gets into lead management, and that's where I was telling Terry it's confusing because you have campaign management and what we need to know, but then we also need to know a lot about the leads. So I thought this information was very interesting as well and a good way to lay it out.
I like this one too, because the study guide doesn't really hit it. It groups things together as lead management, but it doesn't. The descriptions don't really talk about this information, which to me seems like would be what it should talk about.
Yeah, I agree. So I struggled a little bit in finding it. Maybe I just didn't know where to look, but I did struggle. So anyway, I think this stuff will help you. I know most people get very confused about leads. Like lead is thrown around like prospect and lead and suspect and all that. So I think to have a good understanding of how, when I think of a lead, it's separated. It's in its own bucket in Salesforce. It's kind of in its own spot. And then I always like to say leads don't get to go play with the account contacts until you're ready for them to. And then they get to go in that world. So I do think it is partitioned off for a reason. But people, you could spend 8 hours working with a customer and they'd be at the end of they'll still leave and they don't get it. So until the light bulb goes on, oh, sorry, my kids hate it when I snap my fingers. Anyway, when the light bulb goes on, it goes on, but it's really in its own partitioned off where you can keep all that stuff until you're ready it's qualified and it can move over to become an account contact.
So Julie, why would you use leads over just going straight to accounts and contacts? Give me a couple good reasons.
Well, I wouldn't do it because I don't want to muddy the waters. I keep my accounts for true customers, true prospects. Leads are someone that I just don't know much about. I've met them. I meet a lot of people through networking. So I go back and check. And if they're not in our system and it's someone I don't want to forget about, that I want to reach out to, I'll put them in as a lead and really truly qualify them like everything says here. And then once I feel they're worthy, it's kind of like dating, you're going through what's that called? Speed dating. Once they're ready, then I'll move them over to where they need to go or start a new account contact opportunity.
When you think about lead generation, business development type activities, a lot of times they are purchasing lists of names. Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to throw a 10,000 person list into your accounts and contacts, like Julie said, and muddy the water. So, and that to me is when I'm working with a customer and they say they've got a list of people they want to import, that's a big red flag to say, okay, we're using leads.
Yeah. And on the opposite of that, I've had not many customers, but they have a finite list. They have a finite universe that they're going after and they're not purchasing lists. And it's very rare that I would not recommend someone use leads, but it has happened. But I don't know. I'd like to keep my stuff clean. And salespeople, if you throw 10,000 in account contacts, it's going to be a nightmare. So it already is. So we're hard to deal with. Okay. So anyway, I think this stuff will help you guys. I like the way that they laid it out. And then this I thought was interesting too. Web to lead is a big way to capture. And it's, as far as I know, it's not real hard to do. And I just thought this was kind of a neat way for me to look at it because we sell this a lot and have it in our implementations. But it just talks about the web to lead and then how it's submitted from the web form, kind of where it goes. So I thought that was a nice illustration as well. And then this I thought was good too because it's a lead path and everybody can kind of do this different. They've got like open, not contacted, working, contacted. It's just like the opportunity selling stages in an opportunity. And I think these are really important and really something that somebody needs to think about before they put them in. You don't want 10 steps here. You don't want 2. You want to have something so that you can segment the data for people to there I go again, snap my fingers. But, that they can go through and kind of look at their call list and be able to pick up and make calls or communication. This talks about lead conversion. A big deal that, the question started, how do campaigns, kind of help with sales process? It's really campaigns and the leads, but I don't know. I don't want to ramble here, Terry, but it's like, marketing and sales don't always get along. So it's like my neighbor hates Salesforce, right? I talk to her about every day. She has to use it. She's with a bank and she's like, oh my God, the leads they give us, it's terrible, blah, blah, blah. So you've got that ongoing battle in most companies. I hate to say it. So I think it's just, they really are trying to help. I'm sorry, I'm on the sales team. So I know they're trying to help us, but it's just getting it where it's a win-win for both sides is not always easy. But this will give you some ideas on the kind of lead conversion in general. And I'm going to kind of skip through this because I'm going longer than I planned. But I think these will help you. The ending is the best part. So this is just a slide because I know a question may be asked about other marketing capabilities. So again, they just did a nice job of outlining, what those are. I know our company, we do a lot with Marketing Cloud and with what used to be called, Pardot is now Account Engage, I think. And again, knowing the terminology will just be huge in this section. And then last part, I did borrow some sample test questions. And I think I have 3 of them in here and they were the ones I got right. I didn't copy the ones I got wrong. So here's 3 sample test questions that should help you guys as well. So anyway, that's all I got. Terry, I don't know if I missed something big again. I got a little confused as to they were covering a lot. They were trying to cover a lot.
No, that's good. That does cover a lot. I think the concept of your business development people using or marketing using leads or sales is generally focused on the opportunity. I think that concept's really important to understand. There's a lot of companies, if they're smaller, where the salespeople will use leads and they do the nurturing process that larger companies would have dedicated teams to do. So it's not, don't pigeonhole your mind to think that salespeople don't use leads, because they can, and in some cases they do live there. But the idea is that that's your nurturing ground. That's where I like, Julie, your term with the dating. That's when you're dating and trying to figure out if it's a good fit or not. And if it is, then you convert them over to an account contact when you're ready, when whatever your term of qualified means. And qualified can mean different things to different people. So yeah, I think that was good. That's a lot of good information. Kudos to focus on force for a lot of that. So that's awesome. Okay. So next we had Jose with the lead scoring, which this is one that I don't see. Jose hasn't joined. So we'll talk through lead scoring here a little bit. And it's given a scenario, recommend appropriate methods for lead scoring and criteria for lead qualification. So again, when a presenter's not here, we do this kind of as a group think. So I hope that all of you will unmute and share your thoughts and ideas on this topic. That would be great. But in general, I don't know how there's just not a whole lot to the concept of lead scoring, especially if you stick with out-of-the-box Salesforce, because Salesforce out-of-the-box doesn't do lead scoring. So I find this a fascinating item to even have on the exam. It is important from the standpoint of lead management to have some methodology for scoring if you're dealing with large volumes of people. And really it's just a way of measuring that nurturing or the dating aspect with that lead. Now, where I see it really leveraged nicely is with tools like Marketing Cloud or other tools like that, where maybe they're connected in with your website and they're tracking activity on websites. So it could be that when an anonymous user comes into the website, a record gets created that in the Marketing Cloud that says, hey, this person is now a 5. They visited our website. And eventually they navigate around the website enough and they gain your confidence or trust to where you type in your name, you give them a name and an email address, and then all of a sudden, poof, now their lead score goes up a little bit because they know all of the other previous activity that you did while you were anonymous. Now they've got your name and your score elevates a little bit. Now, perhaps you go visit a specific site or a specific page that expresses, or you download a white paper, something that expresses even more interest, and your lead score goes up again because of that particular activity. Maybe at that point you're in some kind of an email marketing campaign and you're getting emails and you click on links within that email, and that causes, again, some type of an interaction that increases your lead score. Frequently, I see lead scores are kind of a range of numbers from like 0 to 100, and everything that you do basically has some kind of a increase. There can be some things that can have a decrease in your lead score. It could be that if I go to like the careers page and I'm looking for a job on their site, some people will decrease scoring for that. So it's really just a way of trying to bubble up the interest of whoever is your lead. Hopefully at some point when it hits a certain threshold, at that point your business development team is getting engaged, or your salespeople are getting engaged and perhaps making phone calls at that point. But lead scoring is a great way to in essence automate some of that nurturing process. Is anybody doing any lead scoring in your orgs today? Nobody. Caroline,
We are not.
Appreciate you being on camera. It's nice to see. No, Brandon, no. Okay, cool. I'll be honest, I don't run into too many customers doing it unless they are serious Marketing Cloud type people. But a lot of even the Marketing Cloud implementations, most people I see using just like email campaigns. So this is taking things to a little bit deeper level, which is very, very cool when you see it in action, and it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. But again, it's not an out of the box feature of Salesforce. So keep that in mind. If you're getting scenario-based questions and you're needing to make some recommendations, your recommendations are going to be third-party products. So beyond that, I'm not sure what else they would perhaps ask about lead scoring. This whole section is 7% of the exams. So out of 60 questions, you're going to probably get 2 or 3 maybe out of lead management. So I don't know that I'd worry too much about the scoring one. Now, the lead qualification piece, I think that one's a little bit more important criteria for lead qualification. And I mentioned this a little bit ago, that qualified leads mean something different to every company. I have had customers where as soon as we have a phone call with them, then they get them converted. I've had other customers where they don't convert it until they are credit approved, or perhaps they don't convert it until there's an opportunity that's ready to be created. It's going to be different for every company. And as the consultant, it's very important to help the customer think through that whole process to make sure there's consistency is really what I look for. If they're going to convert it too soon, then I get worried about the having too much noise sitting at the account and contact level. So I kind of try to discourage that. I want that lead conversion to be something meaningful, but it needs to be something that is meaningful across the organization. Does that make sense? That's really about all I have on that particular topic. Anybody have any other thoughts on on lead scoring or lead qualification? Y'all are quiet today. Okay. All right, Lori, I have you up for data quality. Are you ready for that?
I am. 1 second.
Awesome. Always like that. It always makes me a little nervous sometimes. It's like, okay, are we ready? Not ready? All good. Your presentations are always going to be deeper probably than my random thoughts off the top of my head.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah, I'm going to go off camera so I can present. I don't want you looking at the side of my face the whole time. I don't think that's very, it'd be very exciting. So 1 second.
While she's getting that ready too, I have been very, very slow at getting our last couple of meetings uploaded to YouTube. So if you've missed and are trying to catch up, I think I'll have them up there. I've got everything downloaded and I think about ready. So I'll probably get one up there tonight and schedule the other one to go tomorrow, and then probably grab this one and have it scheduled for Wednesday or something like that. So hopefully this week they'll all get uploaded kind of rapid fashion. So, all right, Lori.
Okay, awesome. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Okay, great. So Terry mentioned the topic I'm covering today is data quality. So specifically discussing the best practices for managing lead data quality in Salesforce. And we will cross over with a little bit of the material that Julie presented earlier, but I think for the most part, it's pretty discrete. So that's good. So from an agenda perspective, this is roughly following the lead life cycle. So we'll start with lead generation, move on to lead enrichment, then talk a little bit about assignment and routing, then discuss conversion, managing duplicate leads, and also this includes merging some of those duplicates, and then we'll end with dashboards. So from a lead generation perspective, Salesforce recommends that you use digital lead sources as much as possible to drive traffic to your lead forms. So if you're looking at something like web to lead, which Julie mentioned earlier, you want to make sure that you're using SEO, SEM, anything you can to make that form visible, like say on your public website, and have your customer enter the information. And then secondary to that, you want to make sure that you're validating the information that's being entered. So for example, you want to get a good email address, so you'll want to make sure that the domain's formatted correctly and that you've got your @ sign, etc. And throughout this, if you pull up the presentation after the fact, I've got the links sprinkled throughout the actual topics to make it a little bit easier to do a deep dive if you want to see additional information on how to set up web to lead. The other piece of validation that you want to do with web to lead is also sending prospects an email. So you can use your web to lead auto response rules to generate an email automatically after the lead has been submitted. And that will also help you confirm that the email address that you've captured is actually valid. And then lastly, for lead generation, it's important to set a default status either for new or converted leads. And there's 2 different places that you go to complete that. So from a lead process, or for a new lead rather, you'll go to lead processes and you can define your default here. So I can say my default is open, not contacted. And then for the lead status, when I'm converting the lead, if I go to the actual lead status field on the lead object, then I can select converted and it'll automatically default to this particular status on conversion.
I jump in with one thought
Sure.
as well, is that given this is data quality, using that reCAPTCHA feature of web to lead would be an important thing to help avoid bots by, adding junk to your system. So that's a way of kind of deterring some of the automated mechanisms of making a bunch of bad data in your system. So keep that in mind as well. And if you're using other things other than the web to lead, there's ways of protecting that data, those similar type technologies that could be leveraged with other type forms that you might have out there with other systems. Very good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and reCAPTCHA applies. Like, we use a custom lead form that we have a third party called Digio that we build the forms through, and then we host them on our public website. And we do, like, all of the validation is essentially built into the UI before it even passes through to Salesforce. Okay. So the next topic is lead enrichment. I really tried to find information about this, and I know Salesforce is pivoting their data strategy, so that may be why there's not a lot of info out there. I know there used to be data.com, and that's been deprecated, and then that moved to Lightning Data. I looked at the Lightning Data platform page on the AppExchange, and it only has like 4 vendors there, and they seem to be relatively small vendors. And then for Dun & Bradstreet, which I know was one of the larger vendors that used to be part of the Lightning Data platform, they're standalone in AppExchange now. So, if you're looking for a partner to help you with your enriching your lead information once it's in your system, I think it's just a matter of checking out AppExchange and seeing what works best for your company and your particular industry.
LinkedIn Navigator is another one that I see pretty frequently.
What was that, Terry?
LinkedIn Navigator. Yeah, that's another nice tool. Plugs in really nice with Salesforce as well.
Okay. All right. And then from a lead assignment and routing perspective, so the recommendation is to automate your lead assignment and your lead routing. So from a lead assignment perspective, you want to make sure that you're defining a default owner for all of your leads that route into your system. And then you can also create lead queues if you want to try to approximate a round robin kind of assignment in Salesforce. Creating queues is probably the easiest way to do that. And then you can also use lead assignment rules. So if you're looking to get more granular and want to define things like, what order a lead gets assigned, what type of criteria, and then a specific user, that's when you can leverage your lead assignment rules. And of note here, you can assign to either a user or a queue. So here's just a basic example of assigning leads by a country that's present on the lead, and then you'll assign it to a specific user. And then if it's not equal to a particular country, then you would assign it to a queue, and you would have individuals assigned to that queue that could pick up the lead from there. There was also mention of Pardot round robin assignment, if that tool is also part of your stack. And that was creating a group. And then once you create that group, you can set up the round robin assignment in Pardot.
Is everybody familiar with what round robin does? That concept? Make sure that it's basically just kind of routing a record through a grouping of people. Goes from one person to the next lead that comes in, goes to the person after that. And it kind of just continues around the group and then starts over when it hits the last person. Good.
Okay. And then next, once you have your leads assigned, then the individual who owns the lead can convert it to the account, contact, and opportunity. So Salesforce recommended that you require validation for converted leads, which is using the new Apex lead convert and not the legacy lead conversion process. And this does ensure that you've got some validation rules enforced when you're converting your lead to your 3 other record types. There's also, in terms of considerations for converting leads, I've got a couple links out here. This was a lot of material, so I thought it would probably be easier to just link to the actual, sorry, this is loading a little slowly. So here you can see all of your considerations for converting leads. And I think, Julie, you hit on some of these earlier as well. So, you know, what happens with campaigns, chatter. It does mention data.com, the duplicate management, which we'll talk about here in a minute. What happens with territory management so that your filter-based opportunity territory assignment isn't triggered when an opportunity is created through lead conversion. So I could definitely see, you know, some of these considerations being included on the test. And then additionally, there is the lead conversion field mapping. And here you can see, so they go field by field to help you understand exactly how the field gets mapped. But I think what I found the most valuable on this page is if you, I thought there was a table in there, not a table on this page. So yeah, so I guess it's the individual fields, but I know there was maybe it was on this page. There we go. So it was actually on this page. There's a table that shows you like all of the different objects and records and how they map to each other. So I thought that was really valuable. And then here, if you want to get more granular, this goes into the individual field types. And then from a validation and common errors perspective, so there's a few different specific errors that a user might encounter when they're converting the leads. So there might be a field filter validation error that's either if you modify the lead so it doesn't match the filter criteria defined for your essentially your destination record, you'd get an error. Or if there's a required lookup filter on one of your destination records, then that would throw an error. And the fix here is recommended to change from required to optional on your lookup filter. And then you could also get an error if you've got a time-based workflow action set up on the lead. And then lastly, if you have required fields that aren't mapped in your lead field mapping, you might hit an error there. So in terms of managing your duplicate leads, this I actually copied verbatim from the Salesforce documentation because I thought it was a really nice summary of when you're converting a lead, exactly what happens. That you'll see matches initially based on your matching rules when you're first trying to convert the lead. Then when you actually convert, you'll have matching rules on your custom fields that will also kick in. And then from here, you know, it does point out that the duplicate records, that those are handled based on how your administrator has set up both Apex Lead Convert and then also the duplicate management. And there is a standard lead duplicate rule that's in all of our orgs, but you can customize that to match your particular business process. So there's also duplicate jobs that you can run to help you identify duplicate leads in your system. And then for that, you can create a custom report type based on duplicate record sets to actually expose that report to your users. Or if you prefer, you can create a custom report type using leads as the primary object and then relate your duplicate record items as your secondary object. And then that's another report that you can expose to your users or to other admins, depending on who's going to actually be managing the duplicates. And then from a merging perspective, your related record retention. So for your master record, you'll retain your chatter fees, but you will not retain that on any of the on the merged record. You'll also retain any hidden or read-only fields, which you will not see. The hidden fields obviously on conversion, so you would retain, or sorry, merging, so you would retain your master fields there. For campaign member status, you'll actually retain that for both the master and the merged record. For files, you will retain that for the merged record. And then the merged record, the final record that's created, you'll see the created date as the oldest date, and it will be the user, the original user that created it. And then a couple of other items, the merged date is the last modified date, and then any non-master leads get moved to the recycle bin. And then lastly, from a lead dashboard perspective, there's a couple of things you can do to help your users participate in data hygiene for your leads. You can either expose the lead and opportunity management dashboard. So this can be downloaded from the AppExchange. There's two different reports that are part of the package. The first report is the lead flow dashboard. And you can see here that it essentially gives that good overview of all of the leads that are owned by a specific individual. And then there are also specific data quality analysis dashboards that include leads as one of the objects. So there's 4 different reports, well, actually 3 different reports, but 4 different tiles that are included for leads. So you've got your lead data quality, which from a record count perspective gives you a score. And that's based on the presence of first and last name, company, phone, salutation, rating, email, and complete address details. So this is different. This is more a data quality scoring than the lead scoring that Terry was talking about a few minutes ago. From the missing lead data perspective, this again is record count. So this is showing you if any of the fields above are missing, then this is going to show you those leads and show you which of the descriptor information is missing. And then for lead owner analysis, you'll see a lead data quality score by owner. So this is just a bar chart showing the score by owner, and then there's a ranked lead data quality score by owner if you're working with the sales team and if they want to make this competitive, right, and see who has the best lead data scoring. And that is it. Any questions? I do have one question at the end if we have time for that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So the question is, your CMO wants to capture leads from the company website that include the customer's first name, last name, email address, and company name. What is the best solution to ensure that leads are captured with consistently high data quality, and why? Would you pick your specific answer? And there is one answer. So the first is custom web form. Second, B is AppExchange partner solution. C is web to lead with field validation. And D is web to case with field validation.
Got C in the chat. Several people put in C in our chat.
Yes, C is the correct answer.
Yes.
Because this is the native functionality you're asking for, required fields. There's not a bunch of custom fields. And then if you're using web to lead, that can be converted into your sales pipeline. And that was it.
So I was curious when I saw the Apex lead convert that you had on your slide, because I was thinking, what is that? Because I was real familiar with it. So I did a quick search on that, and I found that is a feature that can be enabled. It's in our lead settings where you can require validation on converted leads. I'm not sure I haven't figured out yet exactly why it has the Apex title. You use Apex lead convert, which is a permission. So there's a permission that sounds like with that particular name. Yeah, that's where I'm at too, is on that same page.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one was interesting to me. I was wondering, does that mean we have like a custom conversion process? I do know that there is a Apex method for converting leads that can be done if you want to handle it all through code. But that one kind of caught my interest because I hadn't heard that one. And so interesting.
And I checked. I have an org that's been around for a couple of years, and it did have the require validation.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at does too.
Yeah. So it seems like it should be there for most of us, but I didn't realize that there was a legacy process and a new process either.
Enabling that. Yeah. So that's good. Yeah, excellent. Good job. I think that covered things pretty well for data quality specifically. I would watch as well some of the landing pages that other systems can create. I think, Laura, you mentioned that you've got some within your own org where you've got other systems that has created input forms for you, and including any kind of validation logic on those as well. That's really good. So yeah, I don't know what else we would have there to cover on that topic. So I think you got it covered pretty well. Any questions on any of the lead stuff today? I kind of feel like the heading for lead management wasn't really well defined in the description of what we were to study, but hopefully through some of the conversations and information shared there that will cover anything that may be on the exam that would be helpful for you. So awesome. Very good.